to do with my computer, but this will work too. See if we can adjust this. Give everybody a second to show up here. Everybody, welcome. I'm Matt Powers. I'm an author, gardener, educator, entrepreneur, seed savior, and family guy, and I teach people all over the world how to live more regeneratively, how to partner with nature so that they can grow the best food, the most food, that they can have the best soil, so that they can have those great plants, so they can set up food forests, design homesteads, plan out businesses, and launch themselves into the ideal self, like into your greatest self. Like when we are life learners, when we are deciding our own fate, when we are designing the world around us, and we are like actors, in our own lives, that there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. So that's what I love to do. I love to, hey everybody, I love to empower people so that they can unlock their greatness. And that's, I believe that is what the profession of teaching really is about. It's about helping other people find what's in them already. It's not like this top down, this, dictating information and putting in people's heads or anything like that. It's really about unlocking the potential that's in other people. And so I've been doing that for a long time. I started off originally writing books to help children learn music theory better. I created visual music theory books for guitar players because I had so many autistic students at the private music school where I taught music a long, long time ago. How happy am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Like general or right now, this week, I would be happier if my wife was here with me. My wife is with my mom, taking care of her. But okay, so I'm happy that's just to help my mom through a very difficult time period. I wish we could have all been there to help my mom. But I'd be happier if my wife was around. So in general happiness, I would say that I'm like a 7, where I'm hungry, and I'm also needing to kind of renew my fires a bit. I'm actually, I don't know if you guys know the book, there it is. But this book, I'm gonna start reading this book and making an audiobook of it. But it's like, it's for me too. Because I want to get back to that 9, 10. I feel drained by the 2020 thing and all the politics and and it's like, I want to get back to the soil. I want to get back to the garden. I want to get back to the people interested in making things better. And so yeah, no, I'm like at this point where I'm like, I'm a little bit, dissatisfied where I'm at personally, with my own personal routine. I wish I was working out more. I wish I started running. You know what I mean? And you know what? Let me refresh the page here and have this pull up on here so I can see your questions, because I see them flying around and I want to answer them. Oh dear. I'm going to mute myself back here. Oh, I got doubles. Could you guys hear that? Anyway, all right, now I can see your questions. Hello from New Mexico. Amazing. Hey, Indica Dogo. Hey, Mike Garcia's here in Virus Game. I see you. Thank you all for being here. This is fun. Selling any seeds this year? So I don't know if I'll be selling seeds. I'm going to refresh my collection when we get onto land this spring. We're going to be getting on land ideally before then, but we're renting month to month in a space right now while we're searching for land. We moved onto a space when we moved to Texas, but a ton of things happened and it was not what it appeared. It was mirage. And I ended up having to move my family again and immediately find another place to move to after unpacking everything. So that was like super draining. It was very hard to deal with. But then but then I realized, you know, we're gonna end up with another place. We're gonna figure this out. It was very hard, very difficult, physically, financially, all these different things that happened. But we're gonna refresh the seeds when we get onto a new piece of property, and then I'm going to navigate the whole the whole rigmarole and set it up so that I can do seeds professionally, because I've sold them through Baker Creek, and I've done them as goodie bags, as pieces of things, and I have done things here and there, but I've never like fully fledged gone online with doing like a seed company. And that's really the idea, because I've done the regenerative soil stuff, and I basically started on this path when I did the Advanced Permaculture Student Online, which, you know, starts again tomorrow. But the regenerative soil thing was so deep and detailed that now I understand how to do seeds in a way that no one else is doing, like professionally anywhere. So I want to make like living seeds. So seeds that are pre-inoculated with life that's guaranteed to have them grow better than and have immunological strength that is greater than anything you can get on the market. So you know how they're like doing these nasty seed coats on things, and they like neonicotinoid, like pesticide coating and blah blah blah. This is the opposite of that. The direct opposite. It's the biology coating on the seed. So that's really what I want to do. Thank you so much for asking about that. It feels like people don't remember who I am or something online sometimes, especially lately. I've been getting all these like crazy comments, and maybe that's just the internet. Maybe that's just the world we live in today. But it is so great to see people talking about seeds and asking me about my seeds, because I love seeds. I mean, I'm so excited to be in this part of Texas because I can grow everything that I grew in my California original site. The thing is, in Northern California and Washington, where I was, there was a huge amount of my seed collection that I just couldn't grow. And so I was kind of like, oh, I'll get the greenhouse going and I'll set up like, an indoor Fantasia. And I had 7 greenhouses, and the wells were dry 6 months of the year. So it was like, you had everything but one thing, right? And so that was like really difficult. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the whole 9 yards. I'm going to become a fully fledged, not just seed farmer again. Or I would say that I was like a wild seed gardener, because I was like at 2 acres of basically like market garden for seeds. So it wasn't quite like farming, but I really want to go big so that I can start helping more people. Because the thing is, if you have a biologically inoculated seed, the biology isn't like used up. Oh no, oh no. We're inoculating the plant, the soil that it's going in, and then that stays and sticks and has effect. And so every time you're planting these seeds and saving these seeds, there is a maturation. There is you're gathering steam, right? So I'm really excited about that, and so that is in the background. But the first thing I'm going to be doing is, after this launch, I'm going to be doing Our Future, of course. That's in January. That's free for everyone too. But I want to finish my microscopy course. I've been combining Elaine Ingham's methods with the university methods, with all the stain methods, and now I want to combine it with dark field and epifluorescence into a new combined methodology around microscopy. But then I want to go even further, and I want to do a genetic identification course for soil, plant sap analysis, root sap analysis, and compost, because I want to know who's in there for real, not just like how we talk about it and we've seen examples and all these things, but I really want to get the seeds humming. I really want to get these things going. And it has to go through that lens, I think, of being able to know individually which microbes are which and where and what they do. And it takes a lot of testing. All right, so let me get some of these questions in here. All right. Go big but stay based. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to keep it regenerative. All right. So I can't, okay, I'm looking for questions here. What is the main idea of today's podcast? I was going to answer questions. I have a course coming out tomorrow. If you guys have any questions about that, we can talk about that. But I also wanted to talk about, just in general, like what people are into, what people are talking about, just about all these things, because they're all interconnected. They're all pretty wild. And no one's really having conversations where they're combining all these things and then talking about all of them. So I was thinking that we would probably have conversations like that. Generally, almost all my Q&As and all my conversations that involve discussion and people, they go in all these crazy different directions. And that's good, because what we're doing is we're actually practicing the interconnections that permaculture is most often teaching us about. Because it's not the silos of science, it's the interconnections of science that permaculture most often is exploring and combining. All right. Do you have any advice for Arizona high desert, Colorado plateau? Well, they're going to get different rain patterns, right? So, Love Cat, can you give me like a little bit more? What are you trying to do? What are your goals? Are you doing like a permaculture homestead? Are you trying to improve your soil? Just give me a little bit more information and we'll dive into it. I mean, in general, in those areas, you're going to want to gather as much water in. You're going to want to slow and soak the water as much as possible. You're going to want to lower the EH, so you're going to want to lower from oxidized to reduced more. And you're going to want to have things be more acidic than they naturally are. Though Colorado and true Arizona's next to New Mexico, they've got all these mineral variations that are like really kind of like off the map. And we see some of this in Yosemite foothills. There's like opaline clay and stuff like that. And so you can see like really wild derivations. And so it's really important to like map our soil on the EH-pH chart, the Permaculture chart, you know what I mean? In order to really understand where you are, because if your minerals are going to drive you acidic, then it won't work exactly the same. And it's like, yeah, you want it to be in that Goldilocks range, 6.5 to 7, slightly acidic for plants then to dictate. They're giving them their pivot power. But you want to pay attention to where you're at in that redox chart and then plan accordingly. But I'm sure you have much more particular things to ask me, and so I'll be looking at that. Wait. Zone 6, Apache County, Arizona, very alkaline and windswept. So yeah, all right, so oxidized, windswept, they go right in hand. Alkaline and oxidized often go right hand in hand too. High salinity and hard water here in New Mexico. Yeah, and so these situations, what we need to do is we need to balance our minerals. High salinity means high sodium, right? So we need to lower these things, because sodium is going to block absorption of calcium, and calcium is literally the building block, the majority of the building blocks. There's silicon and boron of your cell walls, and the brain of the cell is in the wall. The nucleus is not the brain. That's the reproductive area. That's not the brain. So it's the skin that's actually the brain. What allows things to come in and come out, and those things that come in and come out are actually modulating everything within too. So when we're giving plants a proper balance, when we have, you know, not too much sodium, and high salinity levels, or an imbalance of minerals in general, we can allow for, like, the brain functioning of the plant to go better. This is why using something like EM is really powerful. Using things that will, I mean, all right, so reason effective microbes is so good, and compost tea the same, is because they make amino acids, and they also release energy in form of protons, in form of electrons, depending on which microbe we're talking about. And they're going to literally just go into that soil profile and emit energy. And when we talk about reduction, oxidation, it's energy we're talking about. And when we're talking about pH, remember, they're protons as you get more acidic. So that's energy. So they really are all connected. And I know a lot of people have this like really like heart set on a certain pH swings. And then also we have to understand that the world we're looking at was way more acidic, way more moist. You know, people talk about how, you know, the major greenhouse gas is actually water vapor. And then you look at the desertification of the world, where did the water go? Right? So we really need to bring back the moisture. It will lower the pH, because pH is power of hydrogen. So it's hydrogen, H2O, water. All these things are related. So I mean, like, this is why I'm having this conversation with you guys, because I think that most people don't realize like how interconnected all of these things are, and how deep the information goes and how it connects to everything. Like, it's a network of understanding, is what I've been learning about. And I've been learning it from a lot of different people, and you kind of have to, because everyone, you know, has a bias, you know what I mean? And the key is to like be the person that like looks at everything and goes like, okay, let's triangulate. Let's see how to actually test this. And that's what I've been trying to do this whole time. All right. So, Matt, what are your favorite wild mushrooms to find? I must admit, I have mycophobia when it comes to foraging. I've never been, I mean, I know I could have gone with William Padilla Brown that day, but I've never like been foraging. I only met my first like foragers like at MycoFest, like right before the lockdown. So I don't have the skills in foraging. I know what to do to ID them, you know, with like taking spore prints and such. But I'm a little bit too paranoid probably to do that. I probably wouldn't be able to relax for. So a little bit about me. You probably have some idea about someone like me. I was in New York City during 9/11, and then like 3 years later I got married, and my wife a year later got cancer and lost her thyroid. Well, we had a baby. And so I'm a little bit like, you know what I mean? I definitely have my own things that I work on, and there's a reason why I've got a big routine, and I think about all these things. Anything I think about that I have to like really implement and understand, I tend to turn into curriculum in a book, because I have to go through the information at such a granular level to be able to trust it and do it. So if I became a mushroom forager, I would go find like the best foragers that I could in the nation, and then I would learn from them, and then I would do it for a while, and then like I would like teach a course as I studied it and made it so it was iron proof, that you could prove these things. I'd be using the genetic testing kits that I'm going to be using for the soil course. Like, that's how I would do it, because I would know Um, yeah, I mean, I know caveats. Like, I know, like, there are certain wild mushrooms that are cousins and they look exactly like, well, all right. So there are certain strains of the same exact mushroom that behave differently digestively with interacting with different foods if they've been in the wild or if they've not. And so, and I don't drink alcohol, but like, that's like one of the telltales is that like certain mushrooms with alcohol like have like terrible effects, can make you sick, can make you ill, can be dangerous. So anyway, um yeah, so that's my long-winded answer on that one, Dylan. But yeah, no, I grow mushrooms. I love to grow shiitakes, but for the tinctures we make, I love to do lion's mane for neuroregenerative, because uh, well, there's a variety of reasons. Um, um, People that I love need that. So I love growing reishi because it does the same thing. So anti-cancer, neuroregenerative, those kinds of things I'm really interested in because they keep people I love with me longer. So yeah, that's what I really do is I focus on getting the highest quality mushrooms that I can cultivate here at home. All right. Have you considered moving to another country? My wife would love that. She grew up all over the world, um, but I'm too much of an American, I think. My family fought in the Revolutionary War, fought on both sides of the Civil War. Um, yeah, I think I'm just yeah, I just feel like this is my home, and to abandon it at a time when it's in such turmoil and stress would haunt me like the rest of my life. All right, so full disclosure, everyone like in my family until my dad, and my dad was a lieutenant officer, my father-in-law was a lieutenant colonel. They all served in the military. There's like a strong like love of country in my family. My mom was a local politician. She made the helmet law when I was in fourth grade. Lost all my friends. But she did so many other things. I actually saw my mom, and this is probably great for people to hear right now. I saw my mom do this, across the board, Republicans and Democrats working together to create a wetland restoration project in the town where I grew up. And we always used to walk by this wetland that stank. It had all the gassing off smell and it just stank. And they were able to bring back the free flow of water. I think what happened is that it just had silted up. And so they had to raise funds to remove the silt so that the water would flow back in and out. But it was something that like really affected me early on. Was I saw that you could talk to people that you didn't agree with and didn't even like, and you could work with them and you could create amazing things in, like, you could change the landscape around you with conviction and good ideas. And so, and my mom is also the person that created the first middle school curriculum for special ed. They would keep special education children in a room separate in the basement, usually separate from all the other kids, and they wouldn't teach them. And my mom, as a student teacher, created the first curriculum in New York State. It was later made into law and taught back to her when she got her master's degree in special education at Columbia University in the 70s. So when they started teaching her herself, she was like, hey, maybe I can make some laws and make things myself. And she went and did. So that's, a huge part of who I am. I'm someone who saw my mom change curriculum fundamentally, and it caused a sea change across the nation. And that's really what I've been trying to do with this curriculum, the permaculture curriculum, is to create something that gets adopted and just spreads. And so, because that's why I created the standards as well. And also because you can't, actually grade anything or see how well you're teaching without actual standards. So for permaculture actually to be adopted by the schools and teachers everywhere, they need standards. So that's why I created those. But yeah, no, I love America. I was certified history, credentialed history teacher. So I read A Democracy in America, where de Tocqueville goes over the actual proof showing how Christianity led to the idea of freedom and equality, and led to the idea that led to America thinking the way they did. So, nowadays, like half those words I just said, like, they want to cancel you for, and it's like, but that's called history class. That's called literature. It's called like the evolution of philosophy. So that's hard for me. That one is like really hard for me, that there's so much animosity built in and clouding around what actually has happened throughout time, and the values and the etymology, the roots of values and where they come from, and where freedom and equality and like all these kinds of things. Like, I love those things. So yeah, and it's like you're talking about, where do our rights come from? If they're government granted, then oh dear, the government can take them away. Those kinds of things, like, boy, I wish I could have talked about in school, but you like can't, right? So it's all we live in very difficult times where people feel tied up by just the basic misunderstanding and confusion that gets pushed around. And contention, that's the best word, contention. Yeah. And it goes back, as Mike pulls me back to, is social permaculture. It's just care. It's people care. It's treating others the way you would like to be treated, right? So yeah, I value all those kinds of things. And I mean, that was probably the most personal answer I've given about any of these things online this whole time, because I try to keep my personal, beliefs, because I was in a public school for so long. I try to keep my personal beliefs, my faith, all those kinds of things, like, separate from what I teach, because partially like fear of influence, right? Because I don't want to like use my influence like inappropriately, so I want to like keep myself out of the curriculum in a way, you know what I mean? Because I want to give room for the learner to express. But part of it is just, I was in a public school, and man, you say, certain words, and doesn't matter if they're true or not. So yeah, it's definitely a hard time, but I really am heartened by the communities that I've formed online. So, that there's twofold to that. So I've recently created a social network online. I haven't like made it public or anything. I would like to be able to manage it. So yeah, it's just for my students. But the amazing thing about the communities of students, and this is the reason why I felt confident having my students have their own private network and social media network without me having to like monitor it, is because so many like years have gone by, and my students are amazing. They get along, they support each other, they're so kind and tender, and I feel like we live in a time period where tenderness and kindness is like kind of seen as like weakness or something. But in this, I see so much strength and power in it, because in these groups, in these communities that, so the Advanced Permaculture Student Online has one, the Regenerative Soil has one. I'm forming one for the Week of Our Future. so everyone can have their own personal profile. Like we're almost at a live event together for a weekend or a week retreat together, and everyone has their own personal profile. You can share video, you can post your own videos. You know what I mean? It's a Wild West. But that's what like the conference, like waiting rooms are outside of the talks, right? Right? You got some guy talking. He's got an audience of 5, and I was with that guy one time. You know what I mean? And it's like Hendrix outside of like some of these like legendary concerts, and people are pulling out of the. So I really love the spirit of gathering of people with like minds, and having that desire to unlock each other's potential, because it's not just me. I create the environment, I kind of set the tone, and I'm going to be your guide along a path, but it's really the people. And maybe kind of like the point of today is that like what we see online is an illusion. What we see in Facebook and Twitter and these groups, and even sometimes in YouTube, though YouTube seems to be the least like out of control, there are good people who want to connect. There are people that can use these devices and not be crazy. like for real though, like the medium, there's an ingredient, like, because I have the social like network, and they can share, they can like, they can comment, but there's no craziness. There's also no like high pace like ba 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 going on. It's like people share, and then they like kind of look at it and they talk about it, and then there's like a different kind of pace to it. So I just like want to capstone that thought with we can fix this. The internet, remember the early internet where like anything was possible, where like we were able to access things and like create things, like Web 2.0, right? Like I feel like something happened after that time period, and it's been this steady locking in of something negative, and it's been like a vice on the collective consciousness of the people using the internet. And so I think that we just need to find places of pressure release, where we can be honest and speak our minds and be kind and be interested in each other's actual thoughts, instead of just like waiting to get our turn in. You know what I mean? It's like it's really wild. So yeah. It feels really good talking to you guys. I'm having fun. Are you guys having fun? Is this good? Is this good? Should I do this more often? I talk weekly with my classes live. So this is what I normally do. So it feels very natural to me to be talking to you guys like this, and I probably could do this weekly, just as easily on here too. But let me know. Is this fun? Are you guys having fun? Dr. Alan Williams speaks about epigenetics. Seed care seems aligned with that, like as in childhood experiences contributing to life experiences. Yeah, epigenetics are the switches on the sides of our genes. So each gene sequence, right, the C, the G, the A, those sequences, they have a switch on the side that actually denotes what the expression is. So you can be turning a gene off and on. You've heard that probably before, but there's actually over 3,000 combinations. So the epigenetic thing is like it's the actual way that genes express. And that's why the way that they've been doing GMOs for the past like 30, 40 years, right, is based upon a paradigm that didn't even take that into account. So like, so worrisome. Awesome. I saw someone had joined the course. Thank you. Yeah, the course the course is so much fun. The course, it's over 200 hours of material. It is the largest permaculture course that I know of. And it's the only one that's standard based, and it's the only one that's been accredited by a government body in North America so that high school kids can get triple science elective credit for it. And that's, that's like I said earlier, that's my goal. I want to make things as understandable for us as adults as it, is for, youth, so that we can just incorporate this stuff fast, even though it's actually information that's from graduate and doctorate level, brought down and then explained in a way that is understandable. I love that. Like, one of the things like that, I love bringing simplicity and clarity because it allows for it to encode deeper into the way my memory works. And I have developed, I think, a dopamine receptor around this, where when I properly remember things and encode them, it is pleasing. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but I have a semi-photographic memory. My mom is the one with the real photographic memory. On the house floor, she'd be debating people and be like, actually on line 7 of page 148, it reads, quote, and she would read it, and then, that was my mom. So people think I'm a little wild, a little intense. My mom was a fierce lion and would be debating people live on TV, and like defending children, defending education, and yeah, my mom, amazing. So yeah, I kind of feel like I'm always trying to like fill these like giant shoes. I like Paul Stamets. I've got an older brother that's a college professor. You know how it can go. What kind of organization is best suited to start a regenerative farm, get land with no money if possible? Thanks. Well, if you're in America and you're a certain age farmer, you could get farm loans, but there's caveats to all that. So FSA, USDA, there's all these loans and grants in America to help people and programs to help people started on farming. Regenerative farming, though, is so new that you're not going to get things specific to that. You're going to get organic specific, and that will help you, because all right, so there's regenerative and then there's regenerative organic. And regenerative organic's a standard that the people who created organic created to try to fix the facts that the organic certification got perverted. The politicians, when politicians get things, they play with them. They add their part to them. Like, I amended this, and they get to put their name on it, and so it became a political football, and that's why we're at a point now where you can grow blueberries in clay beads with all liquid amendments in pots on top of tarps and not in soil, and say it's hydroponically grown. And that is one of the number one concerns around like Driscoll's, right? That a lot of people have. All right. Thank you so much all for being here. I really appreciate it. Let me see if I can look at a few more of these questions. All right. How can new landowners attract demonstration courses to come do installations for low cost to landowners? Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that you want to do things like incentives. So and do something big. So I used to do permablitzes. I did one for the largest swale on the property in Coarse Gold in California. We did that with Mark Hall. I don't know if you guys here know Mark Hall. He's in many of my courses. He is another teacher. Yeah, he's a project-based teacher like me. We're all crazy. And that's the reason why I made actually APSO project-based, because I wanted people to actually do things with permaculture rather than just create designs. I want people to do things, get their hands dirty, you know what I mean? and also acknowledge them for that, because if you acknowledge the wrong step in development, you stymie development. So that's why my PDC is a dual certification. It's the standard PDC, which is just for you drawing a piece of paper or a digital drawing of a design, and you have to do it right and correct and all that. But I mean, I've created courses for middle schoolers to do this, 7th and 8th graders. Everyone can learn to design a permaculture site. It is not hard. And it is just an amount of information and digesting the information. But actually applying it, that's when complexity walks in the door. And that's why I created my course to be lifetime access, based on a community, so that we can help people through hard times and through all the different, things that come up, because we actually want people to succeed. It's not a smash and grab. This is a relationship, baby. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really think that the way to do it is to go big. All my students want to put their hands in the ground. All my students, they're all over the map. They're all over the globe, and so they would love this. So I think that kind of doing something big, like saying you're gonna put in your biggest swale or a wallapini, or an earth-sheltered greenhouse, or a root cellar, or something that will get people excited. They're like, I've never seen that. And then they come to that, and then you're like, and afterwards, we're digging swales. And they're like, okay, I'll do that too. That was really cool. And they're talking while they're digging, and you're like, low cost labor. But meanwhile, they actually really did learn something, and they value you, and you're out there working with them. So it's not like you're taking advantage, because you're going to go over their house too when they do the same thing and help them. And that is that reciprocity. That is that people care, that social, you talk about, earth care all the time in permaculture, but there's that people care aspect overlapping. What does that look like? Looks like that. People care and earth care happening in the same space. So yeah, I love that idea. But you gotta bring the something. You gotta bring some treats, maybe some cookies, or you gotta have some refreshments or something bombastic. Like we're gonna be putting in a key line design this week. Whoa, that's actually very cool. That's probably the most complex thing that you can really get into, geometrically speaking, in permaculture design. And it is the most rigorous and professional. So hopefully that answers that question. All right. There's so many old farmers. They need young farmer helpers. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But they also need help, not to teach people. So that's also a big part of the thing. And I mean, they want to teach people what they know, not teach them like respect and like how to like hold a shovel and dig and all these kinds of things. So there's a certain level that you need to be prepared and to really get the respect from these old farmers. These are farmers that started off with nothing that we have now, none of the information, none of the technology, and they literally worked the land in a way that most of us are unfamiliar with. I mean, I've done some work, I've laid hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet of swale because I keep doing it everywhere I go. And yes, I've adopted keyline understanding to that. So some of those swales get canted certain ways. Some of the swales are no longer swales because of that. But you know what I'm saying. I've moved a lot of dirt, but it's something different when you're talking about someone who's been farming 50, 40 years. So really approach that one with a lot of respect and humility, and understanding that it's enough that you have to really pay your dues, as we say in the music industry. You gotta pay your dues. You gotta cut your teeth on things. Yep. Yeah. So, Monkey Man says, my family are finally moving to my grandpa's farm. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to do the final product. This is why it's lifetime access. I think someone else says, Casey says that too. I think Casey's a student. This is why my courses are lifetime access. I'm not here to like guilt people or force people into a time frame or say that if you don't get 90%, you can't get your certification, or if you're not like, I don't do that. That's actually terrible. This is why I don't kick people out after a year of like learning the information. I mean, I'm a high school teacher. I can't like pull that part out of me. Like I can't do it. It actually like makes me like upset. To see other teachers doing what they do. And you know, when I was a public school teacher, teachers either loved me or hated me because I proved that you don't need homework to get high test scores on the standardized tests. You instead need to treat people like people, use their prior knowledge to connect to the new knowledge in an empowering way, and wrap the standards around projects in a way that allows them to access their best self as they pursue their dreams and goals. And because other teachers were just going by the book, you know, and weren't actually fluent in their topic or their subject matter, they couldn't actually teach. And like, this is one of the greatest problems. If you aren't really truly fluent in what you're teaching, you can't actually help people translate to make bridges to help their understanding. So this is why I'm like crazy thorough with, you know, so much of this stuff. This is why, you know, I created the Permaculture Student too, because I really, I really want to know. And I want to make sure that everyone has what they need. Awesome. Are wine cap mushrooms part of the arbuscular type of mycorrhizae? No. Arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi don't form mushrooms. So they're a different group. Wine cap mushrooms are saprophytes. They're saprophytic. So they're good at munching up organic matter in the soil. And that's why they can go in our gardens and kind of cohabitate there. No, I thought I had water. I left my water downstairs. Anyway, so let me go to another question. Ooh, we're getting good. Jordan, good question. Have you made Lactobacillus before from KNF? Yes. And if so, what are your thoughts on consuming and soil and plant benefits? So lab, let me read a section from my book. Because lab is really, really incredible. It's like a biocontrol. You can turn your excess nitrates into amino acids. You can control smell. You can control heat in composts. But let me find the section on it, because I tend to say things differently in here. Here we go. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, so Bacillus. This is a family that has a lot of members in it. Lactobacillus. That's often like lacto, like lactate, like milk. But you can also do this. You can make lab with just rice wash water. So it doesn't have to be milk necessarily. It could be wash water. But check this out. This is in my book. I'm not gonna read all the individuals in the family, like the Panabellus, Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus simplex, Bacillus megaterium, which used to be the main model organism for gram-positive bacteria, Bacillus licheniformis. I'm not going to go into those individually. I'm just going to read Bacillus here. They're aerobic and facultative. This genus of bacteria are ubiquitous and nearly indestructible. They're activated in the heat of your compost. And they're also the thing that is not destroyed by the compost. So the whole idea of hot composting is sterilizing. It's activating. The most widely recognized member of the family is likely BT, or Bacillus thuringiensis. Sound familiar? BT corn, right? The biological insecticide long used by farmers and the genetic source and inspiration for GMO or BT corn. It is found in human and all animal feces, gut digestions of insects, aquatic environments, and leaf surfaces. It is a critical component of every compost pile, no matter the type. But when you think about it, you're like, it's in all feces. Do we really want to put that in our corn and like do that, right? I don't know about that. Acidithiobacillus thiooxidans is an anaerobic sulfur oxidizer, breaks down rock using sulfuric acid, feeds on sulfur and CO2, and is used in biofertilizers. So the reason we know so much about these particular Bacillus species is primarily because they have industrial, commercial, biotech, or research-related attributes and applications. Their usage as PGPRs is rather new compared to their individual history of study. B. megatherium has been studied since the 1950s because it's so giant in relation to E. coli. So it was like very easy for us to see on like cheaper microscopes. So yeah, I love the thorough answers. I mean, I hope that you guys did too. But yeah, lab, I love it. I use it. Lab is a major component in effective microbes that mix that Dr. Higa made. And I can't wait to run that through the genetic barcode identification so I can tell you who is in everything. Because, I mean, they talk about how there's just 4 or 6, and those are the ones in the literature. Those are the ones that you see them revealed here and there by accidentally. But there's more. So yeah, I really love the details. I want to get in under the hood. I want to know the genetics. I want to know the individuals. I want to know the overlap between compost, between the soil, between what's inside the plant roots, inside the plant sap, and inside the fruit, and inside the seed. I want to know the overlaps. Because those are the most powerful ones to partner with. And those are the ones I'm inoculating my seeds with, of course, right? Awesome. You know what? I'll answer the JADAM question here before I scroll down because I saw that. So this is a conversation I have quite often. I have the JMS, the JADAM microbial prep. I don't recommend them because so many of the chemicals and processes involve things that, are quite dangerous. Toxic gases being gassed off, really, really high temperatures that can melt things, industrial chemicals that we're trying to get away from in organic. So I mean, I can show you specific pages from it. Oh no, hold on. This is important. It fell. All right, here we go. And yes, I am a mad scientist, and I love it. But not this mad. There's something about when they're talking about things getting so hot. Let me find that section. Yeah. Liquefied sulfur. Oh, okay. And this, if we start looking at the ingredients here, sodium hydroxide, pure sulfur, you need heat-resistant plastic container, and so this is just one of them. There's many of these preps, and you need safety glasses. It's not the same as his dad. And that's the thing, is it's not biological. And I love the minerals only as long as they respect and partner with and facilitate the microbiology doing their thing. If we're just going to bring in purified minerals, it's kind of like adding biochar. Have you guys, like, when you heard about when you add biochar and it hurts the soil, you know what's happening there, right? Biochar is this purified state, much like synthetic nitrogen is, and they're like so ready to bond with things that they just start destroying the humus compounds and substances. And so like they're like, oh well, synthetic nitrogen will solubilize the soil organic matter. It's like, yeah, because it's literally all organic compounds, organic molecules. They are going to partner with carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen. So if you have a purified form of that and you put it out into the natural world, into the organic world, it's going to try to partner with those things. So I like understanding chemistry. I like knowing the biochemistry. But JADAM doesn't have the wherewithal biologically to put those connections together. There's no biology that goes into all of that other than that JMS thing. And that, is why Chris Trump teaches it. But that's why Chris Trump doesn't teach anything else from JADAM. So I love Dr. Higa's work. I really wish we could learn from the three men that taught Dr. Higa everything he knew. A lot of people, because he first released the book without citations and without crediting these Japanese men for teaching him natural farming. People thought that he had invented it all and like discovered Bacillus subtilis and just things that like if you just studied science and the history you would know that it wasn't possible that he did that. And it's just he's making a book and then translate it into another language. You know what I mean? It's not his language. So they updated it though in recent years, and I really wish there was literature from those Japanese men that taught him, because it's like they were like individual Fukuokas, and they have their own stories and their own teachers. And it's like when my wife went and interviewed that Milpa farmer, I need to release this documentary. Okay. My wife filmed a documentary 3 years ago maybe, 2018. And she filmed a Milpa farmer in his 70s, and he was talking about his grandfather teaching him how to chop off the branches for the nitrogen fixation. So there's a lot of like legacy here that if we could just trace a little bit, then we would be honoring way more people, way more individuals, and more indigenous cultures, more individuals that just felt inspired and were caught up in a modern world and just were like, hey, we got to stop this. Like, Rupert Steiner, and Steiner has his issues. I'm not like putting him on a pedestal. It's no pedestals here. But you get what I'm saying. Hopefully. All right, let's keep going. What do you think about the wireless GPS fencing collars? It makes me sad. The dog like running up to the fence and going, like that makes me sad. I have dogs. I've always had dogs. And my dogs are really smart. So I don't like treating them that way. I think that would be so disrespectful to my dogs. Poor dogs. So anyway, that's my answer, Monkey Man. I know you can handle that answer. All right, so Jordan, that's the question. And next. We want to build a sand dam like I've seen on African relief videos. Wow. Yeah, love Cat. Love what you're doing. I love your the big thinking. That's how you get them. You got to go big. You got to be audacious and make it, and they will come. What state are you in? I'm in Texas. I'm in San Marcos. And what's really wild is, I mentioned that Revolutionary War fighter that I'm descended from. His eldest son didn't settle here, and we're descended from him. But a younger a younger family member of mine from that original family moved here and helped found San Marcos, and our family history that actually proves that we're descended from this Revolutionary War family is in the local library. So we feel like, whoa, we feel like we're meant to be here. We feel deeply connected already to the culture. I love it. And you know, I loved California for a long time. I lived there for a long time. I tried to make it work, but the fires are just so intense. And I try to do my best to explain and make videos and go and speak at fire relief events and speak at fire recovery events, and even documented what was going on with soil temperatures and the dryness and all those things. And I just could tell that well, okay, I wasn't that I could just tell. I was like thinking this, and then like you have fire department people dropping by and saying, hey, you know, if anything goes wrong, we're not coming for you. And we're not sending helicopters. So if anything does go wrong, if you smell smoke, flee. Don't call us. Don't, just start fleeing. And we're like, really? Really? So, yeah, I couldn't keep living there because it was so unsafe for my family. It's really sad. It's such a beautiful state. So yeah, we love it here though. And I feel like there's still hope for everyone. That's what permaculture is all about. But I couldn't be on a mountain on a 2-mile long road on the backside of the mountain with it all overgrown and hanging over and everything dead. You know what I mean? That's all. So yeah. Mojo Palms gets it, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, I could write a book on all this. I could talk about all this forever, but I like focusing on what we can do, what's empowering. All right. Is the online class flexible or must be punctual daily? Oh, no, the way I set it up is all the videos are open in my online courses once they're filmed. So if you're in the first iteration of a thing, I might be filming it while we're making it. Like Regenerative Soil last time, or 5 years ago with the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. Actually, you know what? That course mostly was filmed prior. But that's the way I did the original Permaculture Student Online, was I recorded it every week. But no, I don't do the thing where I unlock and stuff. It's all open, so you can jump around. You can self-pace it. It's really open. The only things that are time sensitive are when I'm live, but I film them and I do replays and I do surveys so that you can get your questions answered, regardless whether you can be there live or not. I really care about everyone getting every question answered. So, I mean, drive my wife nuts, but like I'll go like 2 to 3 hours sometimes. And there are people here that can verify that. I just go. Because again, it goes back to that obligation I feel. I just feel like we gotta do our best. I feel like teachers gotta teach at a higher level. And so I that's what I told myself too. Whoa, all right, hold on. Sorry guys, I'm just scrolling. Do you know anything about algae cultivation? Well, so I've studied it and looked into it a little bit. I've done a little bit of it. It's fun. It's really about understanding like redox, and understanding the nutrients needed. You know what I mean? Once you get those things in, it's easy. And the person I would actually learn from and recommend learning from is William Padilla Brown. He does a great phycoculture book. I think I might feature a video from him doing that in the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. But that's who I would check out, Bromanen. He is Apex Grower here on YouTube, and William Padilla Brown is like breaking into like the mainstream right now. He's like in Vice and might even be like Wired magazine. I don't know, but like he's like and like BuzzFeed and stuff. So he's like breaking right now. So William Padilla Brown could be on the late night show before we know it, and he could be the one that actually brings permaculture to the world. And I can't really think of of like a more wonderful person to do it. Williams Padilla Brown has been on my podcast more than anyone else. So he's a good guy and a good friend. Okay, do fungi trade directly with each other? Well, it depends on what you're actually like. Let's look at the physics of it. Okay, so monkey man, fungi. Remember, their digestion's external, so everything's outside of them, and then they absorb it. And yes, if their septate aren't like perfectly sealed, like bacteria get in, and then there's the whole phosphorus solubilizing bacteria thing too, and the microbacteria. But they, from what I see, they don't directly trade with each other. It's more like they indirectly trade with each other. Or, yeah, I mean, I see fungal competition rather than than much partnership, other than like trichoderma and AMF. Trichoderma facilitates arbuscular mycorrhizae partnering with brassicas, which are typically non-mycorrhizal. So I don't know if that facilitates an exchange, though, like to go to your exact language there. They work together, they work in succession, right? They work in hierarchy. But I'm trying to think, and they worked with the plants, they work with the microbes. But I don't have like an example of my mind of like, and here's our arbuscular mycorrhizal turning to ecto and saying, hey man, here's some of this. Like I've seen nothing like that. Nada. There's no evidence of that. But you know, the thing about fungi is it's wild and crazy. And so you're going to see things that just kind of defy logic until we've like assimilated what they really mean. So I would put that as a caveat on that like many things are possible. But also that I've seen nothing of that, and I've been reading myself blind. But I love reading. I mean, I love reading. These are the books of the hour. These things right here are wild. Memorize them. All right. So, next question. Matt, we love the info you share. Thank you. We just purchased 2 acres on steep hillsides. How do we start planning to terrace and use hillside land? We move in 2 weeks. Hey, awesome, Kimberly. So you're going to want to get a topographic map. You might want to get a LiDAR topographic map. My friend Ben Missimer is the person I always go to for my topographic LiDAR maps, because it takes some training to do all that or navigate the systems, or it takes a purchase or a subscription to access some of those databases. And so I have a lot of students that are doing those designs for a lot of people now. And so I just go to Ben, and when I go to a new property and say, hey, Ben, do you want to trade? And we usually do. So yeah, no, topographic maps, you can get ones off of Google, but keep in mind they can be inaccurate. So this is why LiDAR is better, or drone LiDAR and those kinds of things are better. So I would get that topographic map, and then I would do keyline design. And so using the Agrarians platform, which is in this book, and you know, you guys know that this book is free, right? This book has been free for 5 years. I had someone try to accuse me of just being like a greedy man, and you don't share anything. And I'm like, It's a 400-page book that took me almost 3 years to write. I lost this tooth during it. Haven't been able to afford to get an implant to replace that tooth that was lost during this. So it was literally the hardest time of my life. This was the hardest book to write. Regenerative Soil, I certainly read more, but this was the hardest book. This is like where I really evolved as a writer, and this is the 3rd edition. But this is free on my website, and it has been free for 5 years. No, it has been free for almost 6 years now. So this book is, I mean, maybe there's a new peer-reviewed, I think actually the Lisa Mollison's work with the Italian translation of Permaculture Designer's Manual, where they had to rewrite a lot of Bill's work to update it. I think that was peer-reviewed. But when I did this, it was with dozens of peer reviewers. It was the first peer-reviewed textbook in permaculture. And it covered things like ocean regeneration, which no book before had ever even approached the ocean. And I wanted it to be a gift to the world. And so after spending 3 years writing it and selling it, within a year I was giving it away free. So this is on my website, thepermaculturestudent.com. It's free. And the Regenerative platform is in there, Kimberly. And if you want, one-on-one feedback from me, like as if, I was your consultant that you're paying, $1,000 an hour. That's what it's like in Sonoma here. Though I've never done that or charged that. But you get me. You get to ask me anything forever in the lifetime access version of the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. And it's all based on this. And yes, I go deeper. Yes, I've got 70 plus educators, 200 plus hours of video. But the book is free. And even on YouTube, I read it. Like I physically read the book word for word on video and put it up for free. So I would love for you to join us, Kimberly, but I'm also going to support you wherever you're at. I'm going to give you the tools to do what you need to do. And that's fully cited, so you can see all the references and go right to the references as well. So you've got this keyline design. The Regenerative platform is the step-by-step process to take. It'll revolutionize everything. And that's also how you find out the return on investment, the ROI on any land with a map. And I go over how to do this, with the rolling, scrolling rulers and the geometry and the metrics in the course. So you could design your whole map yourself. It's a lot of fun. We could do it together. But at the same time, I've always been providing the means for people to do as I did, which is DIY a lot of this stuff. So, it's we live in really bizarre times, to just circle back to the beginning, where people question people's motives for doing the right thing and for helping people, or even worse, they're like, oh, you're not allowed to help because you're this type of person. You physically have this color hair or this color eyes. It's just bizarre where we are today in terms of that. So, and I feel like that's an antithesis of what people care is. And it's so shocking to see that in the permaculture movement online, which has really led me to think that it's trolls, like paid trolls that are there to create division, and maybe so that people can co-opt the words and run with them and do things with them to discredit it, as Bill Mollison said would potentially happen. And this is back in the day, but Bill Mollison literally said we need to protect permaculture against, and this is quotes, okay, the woo-woo people coming in and discrediting everything. And that's Bill. And Bill was known for being very harsh and rude and very opinionated. So yeah, I don't want to do any of, I don't want, like, I know he's a pioneer species and everything, but like I really want to like help people, and all this crap online, it's worrisome. So anyway, that's kind of like why I wanted to do this, to like test the platforms, to see if there's like real people on them still, to see if people are still reasonable, because inside my groups they are, inside my courses they're amazing, and then I like step out of like a course, I'm like, and then what's going on here, you guys? And like, then Facebook, the dumpster on fire, and then Twitter, it's like, whoa, it's like not even a dumpster on fire, it's like a whole town on fire. So I mean, I really appreciate you guys being on here, asking normal questions, having wonderful discussions. I thought ectomyco does make mushrooms. Arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi are all endomycorrhizal. Ecto are like the ones that partner with the timber, the nut, and like the wild trees. Endo is the one that partners with over 90% of all plants. And that's the one that we're going to be using on all the things we're growing. Unless you are like a timber nursery. But Monkey Man, it's okay to be like Bill. It's okay to be like Bill. I think that, you know, if we could get to the point where people could have opinions again, and old men could be old men. Because Bill, you know what I mean? Bill like says things, but it's also like he's a product of his time, and like understanding like how to parse value and message and technique, and you know what I mean, from history, from other people individually, all these things, like even from our elders and our relatives that we don't see eye to eye with, they got stuff of value. Anyway. This is my impression of human or composting. Compost is safe because most generalists survive while harmful specialists are eaten. I disagree. There's more. There's much more to that. What do you think of GPS fencing for livestock instead of electric fencing, like the colors they have for dogs? Yeah, I don't like that, because it doesn't give the animal agency to determine, like all right, so let's put up an electric fence. They're like, oh, that thing's shocky. And they're like, man, I'm not touching that thing ever again. And but at the same time, you know, if that something was bad enough, they'd power right through that. So, because it's not that great of a shock. You're not killing animals with the shocks that you give them, you know, keep them in a pen. So I think the portable fencing, the Greg Judy, Joel Saladin, that South African farmer with those huge giant herds, all of those guys are using electric fencing, and I like it. I like that because it allows the animal to make a choice. They see the fence, they know that the fence can shock them, they see the open fence, they know there's good food there, and they go there, and it's a beautiful relationship. I think the collars thing is just more technological BS. I just think that that's just like they're trying to make a sale. Yeah, for sure. How can I figure out if my university would be able to run a test to find the overlapping organisms that you want to find? Who would I ask, and what language should I use? Yeah, so the thing you would have to do is you would have to have someone first be an expert in the microbes. That's what this was a process of, me becoming an expert in the microbes. And it's funny, you'll read the papers on these new things, and they're like, well, the only problem is we don't know what any of these organisms do. We've identified them, but now we need soil experts because they're just genetic experts. And so you would have to organize a team of individuals. you would have to get genetic testing materials. I'm not going to be doing, I'm not going to be doing PCR. Where you amplify, mutate. I mean, there's a reason why they're sunsetting the PCR testing. It's because you're creating mutations, you're amplifying things, and they can show up at higher rates than they actually are. You can hide things, you can like mutate things and create things that aren't even in the original sample. So PCR is getting phased out, not just in the testing thing with the lockdowns and you know what I mean in government and all that stuff, but it's being phased out of like the actual world of genetic identification and testing. So you would have to find people who are experts in genetics. You have to find people that are experts in actually cultivating good soils, and then you would have to find experts in the microbes themselves, and then you would have to combine their databases to find those overlaps, and have someone who is fluent in all those databases or all those steps to be able to oversee it. So that's what I'm doing this winter. And I'm working with a lot of different experts, and we're going to be doing that. So that'll be good. And then I'm going to be publishing it in the next edition of this, because it's not just information that is fun for me to like have, and like it's not a bauble. It needs to go out into the world and showcase what is actually best practice, what is actually happening with compost, like genetic testing before, during, after compost tea, like what happens at the 8th hour of compost tea after you've aerated and let it sit. Genetically, who's who? What's going on there? Like, I want to know all of this. And that's why I've been studying ways to get the genetic testing down from the $300 a test down to less than $1 a test. So that's what I've been working on. Universities, I think that the lowest price I've found for like paying someone else to do the work is $300 per test. And the tests I want to do dozens and dozens of tests that are going along the progression of change, and mapping the progression of change so that we can actually substantively say what's going on. And then I want to do it over and over and over again, because that's the only way we can like prove that first time wasn't a fluke. And yeah, so I want to do all of that. And that, of course, is going to be another course. I'm going to be doing the microscopy course this winter, and then I'm going to be tying that to the first ever soil compost tea plant sap genetic identification and analysis course. So that's what I'm thinking in regards to that. All right. How does one get into the regenerative agricultural industry? Well, you need to register as a farmer. You need to find a market for your products, and then you need to, and there's a lot of demand for organic and regenerative and permacultural foods out there. There just isn't enough volume. We need to form something like the, what is it called? The consortium of farmers that, I can see their logo. It's in my fridge right now. It's the consortium that Mark Shepard does asparagus. That's Mark Shepard's main crop. He does asparagus. It's a perennial crop. He leaves it in the ground. He doesn't sell all those nuts or those trees or anything like as his main thing. His main thing is he does asparagus for this giant consortium. And so they all pool together so they can compete against the giant corporations with individual farms. So getting involved in your local, agricultural growing scene, talking to other farmers, You could start a CSA, you could start a market garden. I just got my master's in sustainability, but I'm struggling to get my foot in the door. Yeah, so so I would go, if I was fresh out of school, I would go intern at a regenerative agricultural leader. And I would intern there, and I would then use that experience to get my loan. So you need a certain amount of experience on a farm to get ag loans. And so, yeah, I would just go serve and do like a work trade, food trade, housing trade kind of thing for like a year or two, and then try to turn that into a way to get a loan to get my own land, and to do it right from the get-go. To make it regenerative is to make choices that only you can make, that are not quote industry-wide. And so the regenerative movement is really one where it's like there's not many of us, so you'd be a pioneer, and that's probably why it's a little bit hard to get your foot in the door, Tori. So I would suggest finding the examples of the people that you want to be like, serving with them, and then using that experience to either get you into another place where you're maybe a farm manager, because you're not an intern now you're a farm manager, and then maybe you have 3 to 5 years experience as a farmer. Then you can get that loan at such a great rate. You can you've got the experience. The loan officers are, because there's more than one loan officer, because there's property and then there's equipment, and so and there's even loans for seeds. So, but if you're doing regenerative, you're probably not going to get the seeds necessarily that they want you to get. So that's what I would say. Get plugged in. All right. Million Roots, thank you for being here. Awesome. Thank you for being here, everybody. Well, I don't think there's any other questions unless I missed some. Did I miss any questions? We've been together for almost 2 hours, or no, almost an hour and a half. Let me know, was this good? Let me know if we should do this again. I really like being able to actually talk to you. That's what's worthwhile to me. Actually, this year I've come to the conclusion that I only want to do things that completely make me forget my phone exists. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to do things with my life, my day, and my time that make it so that I don't even think about email, so that I'm not so that I'm completely immersed in the moment and connected to the people around me. And so that's really what I want to bring into my daily life. And so I think that this is the thing we should do again. Awesome. Oh, okay, Monkey Man said I said some clarifying things. Still, Monkey Man, I mean, even if it's like a long noise or an escalating sound warning or limiting of the shock, you're still not giving the animal autonomy. And the thing is, these animals are very intelligent. And if we don't give them autonomy, I don't think that's right. I think that we want our animals to be at the highest level of genetic expression and instinctual expression. That's why, when I'm talking about, setting up my food forests and getting a large enough property, I want to set it up so that there's it's wild. So the pigs are roaming and I'm not fencing them and moving them around. I want things to be wild. So we're literally hunting. And I'm not saying I'm bring pigs into Texas or anything or set them free. I know what that does. But you know what I'm saying? We should have bison again. We should have all these animals in a actual natural setting, so that they would like actually be able to express themselves more fully and their full genetic potential. There's reasons why hunters are so passionate about the meat they get so often, is because that meat is different from something that's been stuffed into a box its whole life and then taken out and violently processed. So there's really something about the respect, the majesty, when, especially if you're like hunting with a bow or something like that. So yeah, no, I think that there's a lot to respecting animals. And boy, when people talk about overconsumption stuff, if you're actually cleaning the food, if you're actually hunting it, there's a different relationship you have. There's a different respect for food that you have. And there's a reverence, completely different reverence. And just hunters, they're responsible, the duck hunters are responsible for 30 million acres of wetland being restored in North America. So they do an incredible job giving back. So how do you sign up for the online course? I should put a link, shouldn't I? Oh my word. I will put a link right here, right now. But see, I get so carried away. I'm just having so much fun that I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. So yeah, the link is there. Or you could go to advancedpermaculturestudent.com. No www, just type that in. It's an actual it's a leader link kind of thing. So you click it and then it goes to like my Kajabi course platform. But that's there. That's online. It's actually 60% off with a payment plan. So you could get that. You could also get my Regenerative Entrepreneurs and Experts course as a bonus for a lesser discount. It has actually like way more bonuses in courses than the discount. So it's a huge advantage no matter what you're doing, no matter what choice you choose. But I've tried to make it really fun. I've tried to not just make it informational, but hands-on. And my students have consistently let me know that it really is, doing that for them. People have said it's changed their lives. Like many people have said that. People have launched businesses, successful businesses. The people have literally launched businesses and then within weeks they're like making money and they're like, this is crazy. And it really, when we look at the regenerative economy, when we look at permaculture being applied, the abundance that you get out of permaculture being applied to a local economy or an online community, it's amazing what can happen. So I invite everyone to the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. We start tomorrow. It's going to be a whole another season, the 5th season. So I would love it if you all came. It has everything. From cultivating mushrooms, for building soil, from planting food forest and managing gardens, to designing sites, for water harvesting, for water purification, even large amounts of water purification. It's pretty profound when you study Bill's work and discover how he was studying municipalities and how they were actually processing water. So all of this is in there. Jamie says, I'm trying to figure out where to do my PDC. I've heard the argument of doing it local, but I am intrigued by how you run things for sure. Oh, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, the PDC is great. It's a standardized PDC, like the 72-hour PDC that people do locally. Those things can be great. The thing is that the PDC just teaches you how to draw the design, and then it's over. And for me, that just doesn't make any sense, because it's like that's when it begins. So it's like not only do the design and you get the learning, and it's like, well, now we get on the bike and ride, and you're gonna fall off or fall down a couple of times. It's not gonna be like instant, right? though my son, the first time he rode a bike, James did just ride away, and he didn't fall. That was weird, but most people we're gonna fall a few times. But so I really want us all to be there, and then on top of it, it's like, how do we honor elders in our communities without retaining them? You know what I mean? So I always want to keep people in the community. I want people to be participating, even if they've already taken it. So I run a PDC very differently. I took my PDC originally with Jeff Lawton and turned his whole thing into a middle school curriculum, which he then got translated into Arabic, and he uses for his Arabic PDCs. So and there's actually he printed 3,000 copies of that out when we first did that. So there's a lot of Arabic permaculture students out there that Jeff has, and he also has like print rights because he to the translation, because he got it translated for me. Him and Nadia did. Oh yeah, Jamie, I had a master teacher named Jamie Smith, and she was a 9th grade teacher. Though you might be a man. My son's named James, so but that's amazing. I feel like I know you, but I teach the way I taught in schools, so I'm always trying to make it project-based and hands-on, and then connected to the standards. So NGSSS, NSES, all of the main... I don't know. But I've really gone through, and I've actually created an entire teacher's guide. So you actually have the projects, you have the objectives and standards, you have the rationales. So if you ever wanted to teach permaculture, I've mapped the entire thing out. So that the rationales for the district, the rationales for your principal, and it's all standards based, so it could be taught in high school science elective anywhere. So yeah, I love it. I didn't find anyone else that was a teacher in the permaculture movement when I first got into this, Jamie. And it was a little bit like, y'all know that you're rewarding the wrong part in Bloom's taxonomy of cognition, right? You know what I mean? Like, I was like thinking like totally like best practices. We got to apply some best practices. My master's degree will come in handy here. And it did. I mean, I've just been really doing the same things I learned in my classroom and in my master's degree program. And so, yeah, I really love it. It'd be really cool. So I combine things like seed saving in an English class. Something that would be really cool, because you're an art teacher, is to make natural pigments and paints. One of my first books, I'm realizing it's not even on Amazon. Oh my word, I should release it on Amazon. Oh my gosh. We made a book that was all colored and painted in fruits and juices. So the magic beans is completely colored in food. And so I would love to see more natural art and more people more connected into the creation, the more hands-on, the process side of these things. I feel like so many of the artists that I worked with and lived with at NYU in my college years were people that like were taking things back down to basics, back to the basics, so that they could be more creatively original and authentic and raw. And I mean, I feel like art could be an incredible space to do that. Anyway, clearly I miss hanging out with teachers. Awesome. So do you think bikes or e-bikes are useful in small agriculture John Drescher. Hey, John. Good to see you. I think they can be. I mean, Curtis Stone was biking, delivering with like a bike trailer, and he was rocking it. Remember, like the first 3 years, the urban farmer, that's like what he did. So I think they could totally have a space. You're running things around, you're doing deliveries, CSA boxes. You also could be using bikes to do certain processes, maybe. I mean, there are examples of people using bikes to run certain machines in lieu of it. I don't know if that's if that's where you're going with that, but yeah, no, I think that they could definitely have utility. I mean, we could probably create tools that eventually incorporated them, and so you could like bike down the thing, and that's less like space that you're using, so you don't walk on your paths. Maybe you're just riding a two-wheeled bike down, and it's going over the row without you putting like amounts of pressure. But even the tires, isolating the tires down to you have to get fat tires. Anyway, tangent on my part, but yeah, I could definitely see that being used, especially in areas like I'm in right now in San Marcos. Everything's so connected and close together. I could see a college student turning so many of these lawns into gardens and running CSAs and running around town and having a lot of fun doing it. I've read aquaponics is more water efficient. Yeah, and you know what it's also really more efficient at, Monkey Man, is when aquaponics get contaminants in it, they spread the contaminants out nice and even. So yeah, that's the thing, is there's no protections, there's no mycorrhizal like fortressing of the plant roots. Aquaponics, you know, it works. GMOs work. You could argue that like, you know, some dictatorships work, doesn't mean they're good. So yeah, no, I'm definitely not into the aquaponics unless they're actually water-based plants, like water chestnut or taro or something like that. I love those things; those are great. But we just got to keep those things in mind. Could I use biochar as bokashi? You could use biochar in your bokashi, but you need a fuel source for the microbes. That's why you need the bran. So there's a recipe in this on how to do the biochar bokashi method. All right. Ooh, you got a lot of plants growing in your classroom. I love it. Yeah, I feel like there's not enough drawing of nature happening nowadays. It's all like anime and unrealistic bodies, and not good for the mind to meditate on those kinds of things. Much better for the mind to meditate on what's natural, real people, real, you know, proportions, and real facial expressions and stuff like that. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing those plants into the classroom. I taught at a school where the windows didn't open. It was, so like, yeah, plants, like anything in there to like make it better for kids. Thank you for doing that. Matt, how much more energy do you have for this live, time-wise? You know me, I've got endless energy, but I've got to pick up my son from the theater pretty soonish. He did the entire Christmas Carol soundtrack except for 2 songs. He wrote all the songs from scratch. He studied 1800s waltzes so that he could do a time period specific waltz. He wrote it in a day and recorded it in a day. My son, if I didn't understand the brain chemistry and how it happened, I would be like, he's a genius. But now I understand what genius actually is. It's fluency at a deep level that seems to people who aren't fluent like genius. Yeah, so he, I mean, he created a way of playing the inside of the piano with a pick that week. So anyway, I've got to go pick him up at some point here. But he is someone who you're probably going to hear about. He's the best guitarist I've ever seen or played with. And I was a professional musician and played with Saturday Night Live's house drummer many years, 7 years. Recorded in the best studios in North America. Would hang out with people like Steve Lillywhite, U2's producer. My son is completely different. Completely different. So you're gonna like, he's like a Hendrix. And I say that without any kind of like fear of it being wrong or something like that. It's crazy. Crazy. So that's I've got to go get him. But he's got like a small part in this Christmas Carol, but he did the entire soundtrack himself. Yeah. So the inside of a piano sounds like harp. If you're just wondering what it sounds like. So he reaches inside the piano and plays the piano like a harp over himself playing it. Anyway, I could ramble on, I'm sure, for quite some time. All right. I'm just looking for questions here. Rocky Hill and wooded 10 acres in the Ozarks of southern Missouri, going to start the permaculture homestead this fall. Any thoughts? Yeah. So the thing with your situation, I know exactly where you are. Is it like a little bit bulletproof? Like, is it really compacted and like you're like kink, like the topsoil is that much? If it's like that, I highly recommend thinking of the earthworks that you create as the base for the earthworks. So what do I mean by that? When I was there, I realized I had to go up, not down. If you've got machines that can cut through that, good. If you can't dig through that, or if it's like I could, but you know, the next 5 years I had other plans, I would build up. I would use the stones at the bases of your earthworks or your berms, essentially, because, and then I would disturb the ground as much as possible to create a stick between the berm and the ground so that when the rains come, because they will, it doesn't sheet away your soil. And then also having the rocks below as you're pulling them out or gathering them, facing the sun path, you actually have a strip of thermal mass gathering heat below those beds. So that's super useful. But yeah, no, there's some really cool things about your climate because you get so much rain, but you have to also be thinking about the flip side of it, that you leach out so many nutrients. So when you are starting everything, make sure you have enough biochar to be mixing into the soil as you do all this, because it'll help restructure it. It'll help it retain the microbes. And yes, I know adding biochar in, you know, like heavy clay soils increases drainage, so it might actually increase drainage, but you would actually be regulating the water, because the water is held by the biochar, but also the microbes are, and the nutrients are, and those are the things that are going to get washed out by your rains in the area that you're in. So those are just some thoughts that just kind of come off the top of my head. Matt, is this going to be able for later viewing? I believe so. I think if I just like turn this off in a moment, it'll just upload and be fine. It's not one of those self-destruct things. I don't think I said anything too crazy or was like giving away anything. So yeah, no, I think this is just fun, and I think we should do this more often. I've read that fishing and hunting take least effort than seemingly marine permaculture and savory's adaptive multi-paddock grazing. But if you don't have the animals there and everyone decides to hunt, poof, there go your animals. So this idea of hunting and fishing as different from like these areas where we're monitoring and managing things is not quite a difference. Remember I mentioned earlier the duck hunters brought back 30 million acres of wetland. Well, they're partnering with the Audubon Society in Canada, and they're counting all the ducks every single year. And so they're actually very calculatingly harvesting an exact amount so that it actually makes the population healthier and bigger. So effort-wise, that seems like there's some effort there. Quantifying that is difficult because you have so many volunteers doing it. And that's the thing, is it's like, we really, like, someone got all upset at me earlier today for saying that we need to observe nature, and we need to let nature have its autonomy and let wild systems that are truly wild, that run themselves without human intervention, do it. Because we need to view those things and learn from those things. And so we really need to do a ton more observation, and we need to have a lot more people on the land just looking at things, just walking around, checking things out, monitoring things, and then coming back and discussing them with everyone so that we all can kind of update our minds around these things and concepts. Because and this person, was convinced that they were like the guru of permaculture, and they're these like armchair like ignoramuses. And so it's really frustrating that there's so many people like out there who are determined to demonize hunting, to demonize natural systems. So I mean, they threw that. I was saying that that's the myth of the pristine nature and stuff. And that's like a total tangent from the entire point, that we need to learn from nature because we all come from nature. And so nature has principles and these universal laws baked in. And if we don't pay attention to those, we don't survive. And this idea that like we make things better only comes after we observe and see what nature would do, and then test it and see if it was right or not. So yeah, it's this hubris, this overconfidence, that it's like know-it-allism. And the thing is, in permaculture, and especially in soil and stuff, it's a great amount of uncertainty, a great amount of learning constantly happening. I mean, did you know that your food forest is going to gas off CO2 probably for 10 to 20 years? And there are things you can do to slow that down. There are things you can do to mitigate that, adding biochar caps to things. But then again, there are problems with that too. But they're replanting forests, and until recently they didn't realize that new forests gas off CO2 until 20 years in. So and sometimes it's really good and it's 10 years, but we have to like realize that like things are a lot more complicated, and we can't just run around you know what I mean, like it's crazy what's going on in a lot of places in the internet. And it's like we talked about earlier, that humility to approach nature with is so vital, so critical. All right. We have pH levels above 7. Can I still use biochar? Absolutely. Mohammed, what's going to happen is your pH is above 7, so it's alkaline and oxidized. So what you're going to do by adding biochar is you're going to hold more water, more microbes. And they're naturally more acidifying because pH, power of hydrogen, H2O, held in the biochar. Biochar holds 3 times its mass in water. So yeah, I highly recommend doing that. It'll be wonderful for your soil. Is there any way that for older folks who want to grow regeneratively in their homes to be as healthy as they can be, to learn well, but simply to create super healthy soils? Yes. Autocorrect got us both there. Yeah, no, there's an absolute way. I'm going to be restarting the course based on this book, and I'm going to be releasing a new edition of this book in February. So keep your eye out for that, Regenerative Soils. You can sign up for it now if you wanted to. regenerativesoilscience.com, the website you can go check out. But yeah, there's totally a way, June, for you to join us, make healthy soils, super healthy soils happen. And you can learn from home and you can practice from home. Healthy soils, you can do things to create healthy soils that straight up look like magic. You're like, I'm brewing this cauldron over here, just making a tea, you know, and then you pour it on the soil, and then the soil goes from terrible to amazing in only months, and people are like, is this witchcraft? No, it's compost tea. But, or it's biofertilizers, or it's any number of things. So you absolutely can do that. I take the management of wild animals for granted. Like what you said about bringing back bison, it seems inevitable to me. Well, I mean, we would have the obstacle number one to bringing back the bisons, at least in a truncated loop, because the bison loop used to be from the west coast up into Canada, down the east coast, down to the northern part of Florida, across to Arizona, and then back up again. So that's why so many people in America had the bison as part of their ideology and religion and faith. Honestly, the bison, Tatanka, should be the national animal of America, and it should be the main source of meat. Cows, their hooves actually aren't designed to work properly in North American soils, and bisons are. And just a side tangent here, if you haven't tried bison side by side with beef, do it, because you're going to just be like, what are we doing? It's like, it's very clear that the bison is unbelievably better tasting. And then it's better for the land. And they're also totally awesome animals. And they belong here. So it's like, we have to get to that point. So I'm right there with you. I love it. Oh wow. So yeah, someone got their comment hidden. I'm gonna show it. All right, and showing. Yeah, mismanagement is terrible. And mismanagement is what created Lyme disease. There were too many deers. And so because there was no predator that was like a wolf or something to take it down, the predator turned into the Lyme disease. So it's really, really frustrating, the unintended consequences that come from people doing things that don't understand nature. I remember when they banned, as a kid, all hunting of deer in the area I was in Connecticut. Hey, isn't that where Lyme disease is from? Yeah, because they said that you can't even do it with bow hunting because bows are a silent weapon. And someone could not know that you're hunting, and then terrible things could happen. And so it's kind of like, dang, man. It's like you literally created this in my lifetime. I watched it happen. Yeah, I mean, my mom was part of those debates. I don't even remember which side she was on, but I remember the debates about it being a silent weapon and about how they basically ended all hunting. And then we had deer in everyone's backyard in Connecticut, like literally walking through everyone's yards constantly. And there was no way to regulate them, hunt them, or do anything about it. And then the Lyme disease began. So, yeah, it's a really, really big deal. And there's a lot of things like that. I mean, the fact that in California, they're removing all the water from the foothills and piping it down from reservoirs way above the foothills down into the valley to be used, and then because they till, you know what I mean, like that water just keeps going and keeps gassing off. And then the water gets used once in the cities, like LA, they use it once and flush it into the ocean. So all those fires, the dried out foothills, that's manual, man-made. All those fires. So now you know why I felt so unsafe there, because I'm like, no, knowingly people are doing this. They know that the water should be in the foothill creeks, where the gullies on the foothill creeks are 30 feet deep and cut into the stone. They were dry the entire time that I lived there. But for a few times where it like really rained hard, and that was because it was local rain, not coming from above. So we really have to take responsibility so we can have the ability to respond, because it's clear that the people, you know, that have been elected or put in charge, they have demonstrated they do not have the ability to respond. So they're not taking responsibility, and so we have to. I have to run soon. So I'm going to quickly run through these last questions. Thank you so much for being here. This is a lot of fun. It's been 120 minutes. That's 2 hours. So we did it. That was fun. Guy on a Buffalo is what we would play in my sophomore English class in, what year was that came out and became a thing? I would say 2013, 2014. My boys grew up singing that song. Guy in a Buffalo is literally the hope of all nations. Just kidding. But that's kind of how we joke with the boys. But yeah, thank you all for being here. You guys, you know what? You guys gave me peace, because I've been, you know, promoting this new course launch and talking to my students, and it's so night and day, it feels like, between like my students and how kind and how conscientious and supportive people are with each other, and then like Twitter and like Facebook, and how petty and like, I had someone who was a public figure who I had been promoting as an example, like out of the blue, attack me. And like, it was like totally like off page, like completely off page, like making accusations that are like, dude, just click the link and you'll see that's not true. Or, you know what I mean? And it's just shocking where we're at right now, where people that seemed like they had it together, you know, a year ago, have completely lost their minds. And suddenly some of them are people that like we thought, like, you know, could teach us something. So you guys give me so much hope, the normalcy, the conversations, even talking about things that are like, you know what I mean, controversial, right? We can talk about things that are controversial. It's actually the funnest thing to do, isn't it? Isn't it, to talk about things that are controversial? And to do it in a way that like opens it up, rather than like dictating a singular narrative of thought and you know, all that garbage. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for a wonderful evening. I think I'm going to be doing this regularly now, just because this is so much fun, and you guys are awesome. If you like this kind of Q&A, this is what I do every week with my students, around specific topics in the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. That course is based on this book, which is free on the permaculturestudent.com website, so check that out. Much love to everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, You know, it might be I might be talking to Auckland or Sydney, so it's the next day. It's Monday for you. You're working on your way to work or something. But thank you all for being here, and if you're catching this later, thanks for watching this whole thing. Have a wonderful week. Thank you. Now to see how this thing turns off. I did not end it. Yeah, this is so funny. I don't know how to end it. Oh man. All right. Let me see. Oh, I think it didn't do it. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. Technology strikes again. This was my first live on YouTube. So thank you all for being here. I will see you again